I resume recording. So we're set. Welcome to the second round of our EdTech March Madness. So the actual tournament's, technically done. Yukon Huskies, woo! My dogs are Huskies, so I just picked them to win the whole thing. No, actual knowledge of who actually stood a chance. But we're going to be continuing this through this week and then also wrap things up early next week. So in today's session is the Elite 8. So I'm going to show you 8 tech tools. So I'm really just going to focus on giving you 1 or 2 hidden gems about each one of those tools because there are 8 of them. And this is only a short amount of time. So not necessarily doing a whole lot of guide tutorial, but quick tips and resources, ultimately, so you have something that you can use right away. Next round, we'll focus more on teacher creative uses of tools and the like, and the same for the championship. So 8 tools, looking at how they're helpful to you. And the first tool that made it through to this round is Canva. So I'm not actually surprised by that one. I know a lot of people like Canva and enjoy using it, but it's pretty spectacular. Obviously, I'm partial to it because I'm using it in this presentation. So it is our graphic design tool here in BCSC. Everyone, staff and students, have access to it. But if you have not gotten into your Canva account and tinkered with some of the templates geared towards educators and teachers, then you're really missing out because there are some fantastic templates and guides and things in here that I just honestly would save me so much time. And I actually plugged in a lot of these into your Canvas courses at the start of the school year when I made those for you in the summer. So there are some amazing banner and templates in here that really are sized to fit appropriately into Canvas. So if you want to change things up this last semester, or at least give it a trial run before you get a new course next year, anything you make in Canvas, you can import over into a new course. But these templates in Canva are amazing for that. So what I would do if I were you is if I just pull up my Canva, I always search like Canvas banner, or if you do like Google Classroom header, it's the same thing, same dimensions are used by both. And if I scroll down, I see all of these amazing examples. And if I see one that I like, maybe it's related to my content area, my subject, or I just like this cute little summer one, then it gives me suggested ones below this. So this is where I get into a rabbit hole of just looking through like hundreds of templates because I can't make a decision because there's so many cute and amazing ones. But whenever I want to customize one of them, I pick it. And then the cool thing is that if you do need to change the dimensions of this, if you want to have this consistent in all of your modules or your pages in Canvas, this resize and magic switch allows you to quickly change things into a custom size. So on Canvas, it will tell you the exact dimensions for your header in your course, your icon for your course. You can go through and adjust that should you need to, or if you want to make it the width of a page in Canvas. So just a helpful tip there, you have all of those template pieces available to you in Canvas. So additional Canvas tools besides templates are kind of a hidden thing that I just started to tinker with more recently in the last few months, and that is some of these different applications that can be added to your Canva account and provide additional features and functions. So one of those that's super popular is the Translate feature in Canva, which I'll show you here in a second. But there's also amazing ones on here for creating AI-generated art. Like Canva has its own AI image generator, but DALL-E is the one that's really probably the best one that's out there that you can plug into your Canva account. You can make QR codes easily on here. Image Upscaler just takes a picture that's probably low quality and pixelized and makes it clear. Nice graphic design like reflections of words and word art tools. But I also love this bulk create one. So you can easily bulk create certificates, PGPs, awards for your students. All you have to do is upload a spreadsheet, pick a template that you like, and then it just merges all of the content from the spreadsheet into that template. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on all of these different applications today, but I am going to show you how you can access them. So what I'm going to do, actually, let's see here on the screen. So if I'm on my Canva, on the left-hand toolbar is where I see just kind of my general design tools. But below that, you're going to see apps, and this is where I can look at ones that are popular. I can make videos where, it's an AI-generated art that's talking. Personally, I think those are a little creepy, but it's there if you want it. Some of these, I will say, require paid access to these tools, but none of the ones that I'm showing you require that. So once you find an application that you like transforming this and colorizing this, if I click open, After I do that one time, then it shows up here as a button on my Canva menu. So you'll probably see some different buttons here for me than what you have. These are ones that I've been frequently using. So I like this bulk create one. This is the one where you upload a spreadsheet or enter data manually, and it creates certificates for you. So that's great for end of year awards. Translate is one of my personal favorites. So if I wanted this whole entire page to be translated into Albanian, I can translate it, makes a copy of this page, does it there. And now it's in Albanian. It really got all over the place and messy, but now I can move it around. I don't know how to speak Albanian, so I don't even know if I could rate the results and have it be successful. And then there's just some of these other ones here. So Dolly creates AI generated art. Image upscaler makes your pictures clear and less blurry. So those are just some of the connected applications in Canva that probably, honestly, I don't think they get enough credit, but they're pretty amazing and makes this an even better tool than what it already is. And then I already showed you Translate. So amazing, easy to do, fantastic. So we're going to move on to our next tool now. So that was Canva. And Canva is going up against Diffit. So Diffit is the other tool here in this kind of multi-purpose tool section. So we know Diffit is a tool that uses AI to make lesson plans and resources for teachers. There's tons of templates and tons of resources there. If you haven't upgraded your account, I do have the link here that allows you to get paid access to Diffit at no charge to you through the end of June, which is nice for just making a bunch of resources for the whole upcoming school year. And then you don't have to worry about paying for the tool beyond that. But there are brand new templates in Diffit for student activities that are being added every single day. So interesting, their education and their training rep for Diffit is someone named Catherine Green. I've actually followed her on Twitter forever because she was a really amazing social studies teacher. Now she works for them. She makes all of these templates. So if you message her on Twitter and say, hey, I need a template that does this, she makes it. So I use the Say Mean Matter activity as a note-taking resource in a lot of the trainings that I lead. So once I found out she was the one making these templates, I was like, hey, can you make one for this? And she did. So she's always taking feedback. It's amazing. You can always request templates. So if you have a lot of protocols or specific note-taking strategy that you're using often with your students, they'll pretty much take your feedback and make it custom to you and your needs. And she always makes them look way better than probably anything I can make on my own. So I love that feature just because it's so simple. Here's an example of that. I actually went through, made an activity here for causes of the American Revolution at a third grade reading level, even though it's more like an upper elementary social studies content. So if I just search here for a particular template that I like, or I can go in and search through the ones that I like, I can favorite them. If I click get activity, this is where I can go in and get my own Google document. Usually it's a Google slide just so you can add in pictures and customize it a little bit better, but it's pretty amazing and it's totally easy to use. So makes it, I have it in my drive and then I can attach it to a Canvas assignment, send it to students, or I can just give my students access to the link to where they can make their own. So I wanted to share that specifically, that we kind of talked about student activities in Diffit last time, but I didn't share that if you have one that you really like, they're adding in new ones and they're openly taking your feedback and doing those. So on my Canvas slides, I do have the link to this one if you really like this activity, just to show you an overview. And because it's now mine, I can delete some of these things if I want. If I don't want these instructions, I just want to give my students note taking, and they're all printer friendly as well. So pretty amazing to see something that you like to use with your students come to life here in this tool, and they're very good about listening to teacher feedback. The other thing I'm going to share related to Diffit is that they have a growing library of teacher examples and real applicable classroom settings, resources that teachers are using. So they have a nice Wakelet here. That link kind of looks wild that I just shared with you. But this is a collection of tweets, lessons, activities that teachers have made and shared with Diffit. And there's constantly new ones being added every single day. But here's just some examples. So if you're scrolling through and you see something related to your content area or your grade level, it's just nice to see how teachers are using some of these tools. I know that I love learning about tech tools, but sometimes I needed to see and visualize what it looked like in a classroom setting before I was willing to take the plunge or tackle integrating it into my classroom myself. So all kinds of things. There's even TikTok, all of the things here. So like looking at this just to see what other teachers are doing and their creativity and having those shine. So that is Diffit. I think that's the last slide I have on Diffit. Yeah. Okay. So next up, we're in the AI tools category now, and I'm going to share like 2 quick things about each one of these tools as well. So first one in this category is MagicSchool. This was the overwhelming favorite in the AI tools section. So as you know, it's a tool, it's a generative AI tool, meaning it's a chatbot type of tool, but it's designed specifically for functions and tasks that a teacher needs help with. And now they've added in the student-facing part of it. So in MagicSchool, a new feature since the last time I talked to you all, this literally came out like the day after I did the training and recording with you all last time. My timing was not great, but I guess, you know, having training afterwards worked out, is that you can now customize the Magic Student, the student AI tool in MagicSchool to where you can plug in your grade level and any standards that you would like. So before you would just say, like, this is the language I want. You could put in your subject area, but you couldn't put in specifics, and now you can. So that just makes these tools even more powerful. And to pull that up and show you, because I keep toggling back and forth a zillion times, I have so many tabs open. Whew, goodness, I'm going to close some of those because my computer sounds like it's going to explode. All right, I don't really want to take a survey right now, MagicSchool, but thank you for appreciating my feedback. Okay, so have this open. Whenever I want to launch something to my students, I come over here. I can preview the tools on Magic Student right here, favorite star things that I like. But whenever I launch it to students is where I'm truly making this an activity for my students to have a chatbot, a room where they're interacting with these tools. So last time that we were looking at these tools, I launched one of these and it was like a language learning tool. So I can view the results here. I can see the student performance. I can even print out a whole entire history, what the student was saying, the questions they were asking, the responses they were getting. But if I wanted to customize this and use some of those new features I just talked about, I'm going to do edit room. And from here, I can add in a lot more. So if my students, I'm giving them a choice board essentially of how they can use this AI tool. Maybe I have some students that need to have language learning tutor. Maybe I have other students who are working on a research project. They're in that phase. Maybe other students are already written out their paper and their project and they just need feedback at this point. So I can select those, scroll back up to the top, click next, and this is where I can customize them further. So if I click the writing feedback one, I can put in more information here than what I could, you know, a week ago when I first showed this to you all. And it gives you a nice preview over here of what this is going to look like for the student. You can get some sample responses before you ultimately launch it to the class. So if I'm doing 7th grade, persuasive essay on school dress codes, because that's like the first thing that popped in my mind. I could be very specific here. I can paste in my standards. I could even paste in my rubric criteria I'm looking for. And then it now gives that very targeted feedback and responses to the student. And I can do that for any one of these pieces. And whenever I'm ready to go, click next, update the room if it's an existing one, or launch it. And then I have a code and a link that I can share with students so they can interact with this tool. So those additional layers of customization are there for you now if you want them, which is a little bit of an improvement from their first iteration of that tool. The last little piece I'm going to show you related to MagicSchool is that there's just a general chatbot on here. So if you're like me and you're indecisive, or if you're in a hurry and you just have some questions or things you need help with and you don't want to scroll through the whole list of MagicSchool chatbots, they have just a general teacher chatbot tool. They also have a student version of it, and it's called Raina, and it's on the left-hand toolbar. And I was actually using that today. So I teach a college class, and I had this vision for what I wanted my students' final project to be, but I was having a hard time articulating it in a way that's going to make sense for my students. So I came to Raina here, and I asked it to help me come up with a final project where my students just aren't regurgitating what UDL and accessibility means to them as teachers, you know, like listing off things that I told them, but what it personally means and how they're going to apply it to their learning environment. So I asked it to give me some assistance here. I could have probably found a specific generator, but I was in a hurry, so I didn't. Typed it out, and it gave me some really nice content. It gave me an objective, something to look for, and then I went even further, and I asked it to give me possible ideas for my students to show their understanding. And then it made a rubric for me. And when I went over here, 3-dot button, I did export to Google Docs. You can also just copy it. It was in a Google Doc. I fine-tuned it, added in some details, and then I put it in my course, and it's ready to go for my students. So if you're just in a hurry and you need something quick and you don't want to search through all of the Magic tools, the Raina chatbot is one of those features on MagicSchool for efficiency that also I don't feel like is getting enough credit for how helpful that it is. So next tool that's up, last thing here. If you want some tips for using Magic Student with your students, that sounds funny and repetitive. I didn't realize that when I was making this slide. There is a Google Drive folder that MagicSchool has made, and there's a bunch of helpful reference guides for students, like one-pagers that show them how to use AI tools effectively that would be nice to integrate when you're using these tools with students for the first time. So I thought I would share that with you as well. Next up, we have Curipod. So as we know, Curipod is an AI tool. It's also in this AI tools category up against MagicSchool, and we can use it to make interactive lessons, to take our existing slideshows and make them interactive, but there's also feedback tools in some of those bilingual slideshow presentations that we looked at last time that I think a lot of people really enjoyed learning about. So they've actually added in a few other features, and if you haven't entered this code, Curiosity, to upgrade to premium, make sure you do it. But they also have a thing going on right now that I thought I would share with you all. If you use Curipod with your students 10 times in the month of April, then you can be entered to win an iPad and like a pizza party. So it pops up as a notification when you sign in, and there's a little registration form you have to fill out, and they'll track the number of times that you use it. But thought I would share that with you. We always love free things. So if you wanted to win an iPad, you can do that with Curipod if you use it 10 times. And it could be short lessons if you want, real quick things with staff, if you wanted to make your, I know Cassie sometimes probably has department meetings. If you want to make it interactive, why not model the tool while you train it? So new things they added in as of the last 24 hours. As I was finalizing these slides, I got an email from Curipod and it was like, here's new things. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. They added in new generators on here. So they have now the ability for whiteboard space type of questions on Curipod. So before it was either fill in the blank, multiple choice, multiple answer, short response or extended response question types. But now they've put in the ability for you to, for your students to illustrate a response or to circle parts of a picture. So it's almost like they're bringing in those features and things that we see on Pear Deck into Curipod. And to level it up, AI can now provide feedback on these whiteboard or drawing type of questions. And that's the new piece as well. They've not added in the ability for this feedback to be translated yet on this type of question, but I imagine that's on the roadmap, especially if it's something the teachers are asking for. So to give you a preview of this, if I sign in to Curipod, I'm on here right now. It's some of these new things that are popping up. They even have games here for students that are already made for you. So all you have to do is just share it with students. STAR is the Texas version of iLearn and iRead. So it's not our standards, but it's very similar. If you want to get some test prep stuff, since we're definitely in that season. But further over is where I can see some of these drawing type of questions. So and I could even get it set up to where it's going to give some feedback to my students, put in some questions and pieces here, and then it's going to give them some nice AI generated feedback. So always know that this feedback is not, quite as extensive. It's not perfect, but at least gives some immediate feedback to where you can fill in the gaps and provide more moving forward. So those are some of those new generators and pieces. And then the last thing I'll show you is just this AI whiteboard feature is very similar to what I just showed you. If you already have an existing Curipod presentation and you don't want to have it just be drawing-based questions, it's now a question type. So if I'm doing a bunch of questions where my students are voting or they're doing a word cloud, I can now select AI whiteboard is one of those question types. And it's amazing because it's just super helpful for me if I want to add in some different options for my students to give them a chance to express themselves in more ways than just writing. And what's also amazing is that there's tons of templates already out there for teachers in Curipod. So if you are looking for a specific subject area, grade level, don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. You can search through their lessons button, like where my cursor is right now, and there's already ones that are made. So kind of helpful there if you're pinched for time or need to get something going, or you're, sometimes I have like writer's block when it comes to designing lessons, and I just need to see what someone else has done to spark my own creativity. All right, so that's the AI category. Now we're moving into the specialty tools. So the two in this category are Read and Write, and then also quizzes, specifically the Quizizz AI. And that was like a very narrow one. Quizizz barely won. So actually Read&Write also barely won. It was very close in both of these categories. So I don't know if it was all of us being indecisive or they were all four of them so cool we couldn't narrow it down to two. So in Read&Write, what I wanted to show you are just some nice audio options for you as the teacher, but then also options for your students. So in Read&Write for Google Chrome, if you have a Google Doc open, they also allow this now in Google Slides. You can create voice notes for your students. So I know every now and then, like giving my students audio feedback was a much more engaging option than just reading out my typed comments. And sometimes I can talk faster, explain things faster than I can articulate my thoughts in writing. So it's almost like you're giving your students a podcast version of feedback or tips, and it adds a little bit of personalization. So in Read&Write for Google, it's super easy to do. I could just open my toolbar. I'm either in Docs or I'm in Slides for this to be open. It doesn't show up on other tools yet, just on Docs and Slides, but it's this little voice note button here at the top. So you technically, yes, you could use this on voice typing feature, but what's nice is that there's not really a good voice note or recording option embedded or within Google Slides on its own. This adds in that functionality where otherwise it doesn't exist. So it's just one of the buttons here on the toolbar, usually towards the end. The other option I want to show you is this practice reading aloud button. So this is probably more applicable to, maybe our multilingual learners or even some of our elementary students trying to build some fluency. I also see this as being helpful if you have students who need to do a presentation and they need to practice reading through some of their notes and having that verbal practice. This just allows students to practice reading what's on their screen. So it'll highlight word by word the whole document, and it records it so they can play it back. And it can also add in some screen masking so the students can focus line by line. So this is definitely a more student-facing tool, but is an option there for your students as well. And just another little helpful hint here, when I gave my students readings on Google Docs that I had created or sourced from another website, I put in a header at the top of the page that reminded the students and honestly remind them they have permission to use Read&Write, to take notes and to read with their ears, because sometimes they know those tools are there, but it's like they need us to tell them it's okay to use them. So just a tip, if you wanted to copy this document, I'll put it in the chat so you have a header that you can make and then put on your own resources. All right, put that there for you. Okay, and then I already said this a little bit when I was showing you the read aloud feature, but there is a screen masking tool in Read&Write. It's available on the web, so just reading a website, but also on Google Docs and other Google resources. It's just one of those buttons, and it just focuses line by line or multiple lines so your students don't get overwhelmed by a whole body of text, or if they need to have this, some of our students with dyslexia prefer to have a screen mask to help them read digitally. It's an option there for your kiddos. So Read&Write is just great for boosting overall accessibility when our students are doing anything on Google products, in Chrome, and on the web. So I'm going to keep moving on. Quizizz AI is our next one, and just some exciting features here. If you haven't done their AI Quizizz teacher certification course, I recommend it. It took me like 20 minutes. I did it over the weekend because I was curious. And it's really cool because it shows you so many ways to use this tool that I hadn't really thought of otherwise. So one of them is that when you're using the AI feature to build a quiz or an activity in Quizizz, there's the ability for you to go and make it sound like someone. So in this particular example, they made the instructions or the questions sound as if they were written. Oh, you gave an AI quiz last week. I love it. I love it. It's so easy to make stuff, and you can now even, make your quizzes sound like someone if you like. If you make it sound like someone, I probably wouldn't make it like a high stakes assessment in case the students don't get the humor or the joke, but it could be fun to introduce something or just to be goofy or even to de-stress after I learn and testing things and do something fun and silly with your students, because we certainly need that during testing season and this time of year. So this particular teacher in this example did Yoda, but then another example was making it sound like Shakespeare, which was a little intense. I know I kind of struggled with Shakespeare in school, but it was to introduce the style of writing that he had. Last thing on Quizizz AI, I think last thing, or maybe I have another slide, I can't remember off the top of my head, is that there's this nice translate feature as well. So You can take anything that Quizizz AI makes for you, or you can put in an existing quiz. You can upload a PDF. You can pull in a website and it makes a quiz for you. And it can translate it into multiple languages. So you can have multiple versions of your quiz to where it supports your English language learners and your multilingual learners. And there's always another accommodation you can give MLs and ELs. It's just reducing the number of answer options for your students too, especially if, you know, they're trying to build some of those comprehension pieces. We don't want the language to be the barrier and not get a good depiction of whether they know the content or not. All right, we only have 2 more tools and I have 4 minutes. So this has been like hyper speed. I apologize, I'm talking so quickly. I knew I was ambitious doing 8 tools in 30 minutes, but here we are. All right, so Book Creator and then Adobe Express were our 2 winners in this creative tools category, and we'll see who advances to the next one. So Book Creator is an ebook creation tool. And what's nice is that there are so many different templates out there for projects already made and lesson activities for you. So I really wanted to highlight the time-saving part of this for you today, and that you don't have to spend a lot of time and energy building something on your own unless you want to. There's always lots of examples that you can copy and remix and then use as your own. So I love this idea because sometimes you want to use a tool, but thinking about how it's going to be difficult for your students to use or new can sometimes be a barrier. There are tons of guides here that walk students through how to do this in a fun way, and also just already made lesson activities. So one of the examples I want to show you is that there's an Eclipse lesson that I'm actually going to pull up here that's kind of cool. And if you go in and sign up and access Book Creator, you can make this your own and customize it as you need. So if I click Remix, then it's in my library and I can push it out to students through Canvas or just through a link. But this one is set up to where there's some nice videos and things. It's set up as like an inquiry, a 5E type of activity where students engage, and then they explore some different resources related to the Eclipse, and then they take notes and then do something creative by creating their own ebook pages related to the Eclipse. So why not take some of the exciting things that we saw, you know, yesterday on that Eclipse day and continue the excitement and get students eager to learn further. So this is just an example of one of the many already made resources and lessons on Book Creator, and they have really good stuff they send out in their newsletters as well. The last thing is that you can always technically, you can also import PDFs into Book Creator and make it to where you can edit them, and they're accessible. So PDFs, I always say this is my favorite. I don't love them. PDF into Book Creator. Button, you already have like first open on the top right, and then draw on it, highlight, move things around, words, pictures, whatever you want to Right, and then just connected out to the screen. Like last time, you can pull in any of these resources and tools into an ebook already made. And last one, Adobe Express. So this is kind of similar to Canva, and that there's lots of different ways you can use this. It is a graphic design tool. All students and staff have access to it in BCSC, but most specifically, I wanted to show you some of the pre-made, already good to go lessons in Adobe as well. So it's technically, if you do Adobe Education Exchange, you can see all of these. And I love some of the activities they have made here because they're very similar to things we want our students to be doing in class, or they're very timely for holidays and the time of year. Whoever is making these lessons for them honestly does a very good job and has a very good pulse on what teachers are going through, what they need. So here's an example of where you give students some practice using the text to image generator in Adobe Express, and it's a lesson already made that does that. So most of these lessons are shorter, like 10 to 15 minutes or even less than that. And this walks your students through how to use the tool, so it's already made for you. And there's a nice YouTube video already set up here as well. So for this is a fun one for getting students to be using this descriptive text. They make an AI alter ego that's an animal that represents them. So fun way to introduce this tool and get some familiarity with it. And it's already a pre-made lesson, so you don't have to spend time on it yourself. The other one that I love is just this animate audio. This is kind of goofy, but I like to share it. So it's a free tool within Adobe Express. All of this should be available to you, but what it allows you to do is to take your voice and animate it with a character or digital avatar. So you start, you go in, you sign in, you record your voice, you pick your character that you want it to be animated, and it just makes like a cartoonified version of whatever you have selected. So it does take a second to load, so I'm not going to do that because we're already a little after 4. But I could go through, I pick a background, pick my character, just click record, and then it will be me. So then I can download it, put it on my Canvas course or on my slides, or I can create a link and then share the link with my students. So I've seen some teachers use this for fun feedback or to explain instructions when they have a sub that day, or just to be goofy and add in some different things. If you're, this time of year, you need something to remix it or mix it up a little bit with your kiddos. So that is Animate Audio. It's super easy to use. You pretty much just pick your character and record. So we are at time. So I'm going to drop in the voting link for you, and it should also email you your PGPs, but it is there. I don't envy your decision making again. So we're going to be narrowing it down to 4 tools, and we'll have the final 4 on Thursday of this week for these tools. So it is there. The schedule, I'm also going to drop that in the chat if you need it. Whoop, I can pull up this correctly. All right. So the link is there for you if you want to see the schedule of events. I moved the later ones kind of further down the page, but the voting is there. So thank you for tuning in today. I hope you had a great long weekend, 3-day weekend, and got to enjoy the amazingness of the eclipse, and that you had a great day back today. If you have questions, let me know.